Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing a three-way driving comparison with the all-new Ram 1500 Bighorn, Ford F-150 XLT, and Chevy Silverado 1500 RST to see which one drives the best. Before getting this video though, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larch Miller Ford Lincoln here in Provo, the Chevy here in Provo, and the Ram here in Provo for giving me some time with all three of these trucks. I'll include a link to all their inventories in the description down below so you can check them out. And then on a side note, if you want to save time and money the next time purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. Well, let's talk about visibility here in the Silverado before we set off. Here's your visibility of the hood, both of the mirrors throughout the rest of the rear, and you know what? Let's try something different. Let's just set off right away. So, setting off in the Silverado. First thing I want to mention here is with these seats, they're definitely the firmest out of the bunch in terms of the padding. It seems like that's just a GM thing that they do with a lot of their vehicles. I'm not complaining about it, just kind of analyzing. Other stuff, really good response time out of this 5.3, that's for sure. 10-speed automatics, solid as well. Love the LED lights, they're really bright here at night. Again, you guys asked for more nighttime reviews, and well, I am providing such. Look at that F-150 Lightning. That thing would definitely smoke us in a race. Some other stuff, I do like the overall feel of this new Silverado interior, especially in this version of the Silverado. Like, when you get like an LTZ, for example, or High Country, it does slightly elevate the interior, but not a massive amount. The biggest change is like the seats. But like, you know, getting this big infotainment screen and this big digital gauge cluster in a middle of the line package with the Silverado, it just feels like you're getting a really good value with the truck, because you're getting a lot of just upgraded features that you don't normally get in a pack. Like, again, look at the Ram, look at the Ford. They don't have full digital gauge clusters. They don't have, well, you can get the bigger infotainment system in the Ford and in the Ram, but the Ram doesn't have the bigger infotainment system. Anyways, other stuff, this definitely feels like a pickup truck. There's no like hiding that. So I think it's a pretty cool feel. Like, you can tell that it's got leaf springs. It has that like big, brawny, heavy feel that, again, you kind of associate with a pickup truck. So I think that is pretty cool. Heated steering wheel definitely works really well. We're gonna give this Acura some space so we can get our acceleration. That Acura is probably like 20 years old, so they have like 2 horsepower left. Okay, punch it a little bit here. Didn't gear down, that was interesting. It's pretty good. This thing I've noticed by the Silverado is it doesn't like to like, and I've noticed that with the 10-speed, just in the GM product in general, it doesn't like to like go to the lowest possible gear. It's always kind of conservative if you're already up and moving, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, to fully kind of sum things up here with this Silverado when it comes to the driving, this has more of like an old school truck feel, and you really feel that when you put it in like 4-wheel drive, for example. Like the 4-wheel drive system kind of feels like a more traditional 4-wheel drive system. You don't have to do the hubcaps or anything, but again, it has a more traditional feel about it. And so yeah, let's see how it compares to the other two. Okay, let's talk about visibility here on the Ram 1500 before we set off. Here's visibility of the hood, both of the mirrors, and throughout the rest of the rear, and well, that's set right off. So first off, seat comfort here in the Ram, probably going to be the best out of the bunch. Definitely more comfortable than the Chevy seats. They're a little bit harder than these ones. But I do want to say, like, with those Silverado seats, if you sit in them with really good posture, like, they're comfortable. What is that person doing? they like sped around that corner way too fast. When you got vehicles parked that tight, you don't do that stuff. I always got to capture someone doing something stupid every single day. But something to mention here is this has halogen lights. It's the only one that has halogen lights, and yeah, definitely not as good as the other two trucks in terms of the brightness. So that's a little bit of downside. You can upgrade to LEDs, but I mean, again, this is already the most expensive truck, but then it has the, yeah, well, no, sorry, not the most expensive, the second most expensive. So that would make it the most expensive if you added LED lights to it. But some other stuff, I love how this feels. It has this nice planted feel. It still has like a pretty big heavy feel, just like the Silverado. So it's got that happening. Oh yeah. It's not like way quicker than the Silverado, but it's a bit quicker. But again, you can get a 6.2 V8 in the Silverado, so that would make that quicker than this. The acceleration is great. The biggest thing that you notice with the Ram though is it just feels so planted. The turn in, again, when you go over bumps, the suspension, again, because that multi-link in the back end. Multi-link is not as good for payload, but it's way better when it comes to ride quality with a pickup truck. And so, yeah, overall with the Ram, I think that this is probably the most luxury feeling out of the bunch in terms of the interior, like materials and quality, and then also with the drive and the seat comfort and everything, which is kind of interesting because I just did a comparison earlier today with like the F-150 Lariat versus Ram 1500 Laramie and Chevy LTZ, and the Ram wasn't necessarily the most luxury feeling out of that bunch. Spoiler alert, which is crazy. So it's weird how the different truck segments actually feel substantially different with what the automakers do. But definitely the lightest options with this one, which is kind of interesting. But let's head to the Ford. Let's talk about visibility here in the F-150. So here's your visibility of the hood. Both of the mirrors do have blind spot monitoring throughout the rest of the rear. And let's set off. I feel like this one has the most well, I guess the Silverado technically has the most normal shifter because it's a column shifter, which is like traditionally what trucks have. But like just having like console shifter, I don't know, for me, being a basically an infant, right? It feels the most normal to me. But anyways, with the F-150, this one feels the most car-like out of the bunch. The other two, they still have like that big heavy feel that, you know, you kind of expect with a pickup truck. Whereas this, it feels lighter weight, and when you're just driving on smooth pavement, it really pretty much feels like a car, which is very interesting. That being said though, once you go over a bump with the F-150, those leaf springs come into play, and you know, the back end does the whole bouncing around thing, and so it doesn't stay as planted as the Ram does with that. This has the auto hold feature set. I hate that so much, where it just holds it in place when you let your foot off the gas. Some of you might like it, but I am not a fan. You can turn it off though, which is nice. Really torquey. Like this one, compared to the other two, because we're at high elevation, I really don't have to get into this at all when I'm just like leisurely getting up to speed. So definitely, you know, when you're just kind of lightly going around town, this one is going to be the best when it comes to that low speed acceleration. Definitely the quickest. Wow. Wow. Yeah, definitely the quickest. Once you get into those turbos, I mean, it's not as instant as the other two because those are naturally aspirated, but like once you get into those turbos, this thing just hauls. Wow. So yeah, some things up here at the F-150, I'd place it in between them, kind of with this specific comparison. These seats are comfortable, not as comfortable as the Ram seats. When it comes to the driving, like I said, this one feels the most car-like. I'm not a fan of leaf springs with these half-ton pickup trucks anymore. Again, after experiencing those coil springs in the Ram, it's so nice, like, to not have the back end go over the place when you go over a bump. And so, yeah, this one really is kind of in between. Again, it's the most expensive out of the bunch, but you've got a lot of features with this one, just like the Silverado. And so, yeah, it seems like it kind of makes sense with where this is placed and all that. I do like the looks of this too. Yeah, definitely a tough comparison. This is probably, like, out of all of the different little segments within the half-ton segment, in terms of, like, you know, base to midline to luxury, the midline packages are the most competitive by far. That's why choosing one is definitely the hardest decision. Now that's pretty much going to sum things up for our driving comparison with all three of these trucks. I want you guys to let me know which one you thought drove the best based on what you saw. When it comes to my own thoughts on all of the trucks, I feel like the Ford drives the most car-like out of the bunch, other than the fact that it still utilizes leaf springs in the back end, which can kind of be bouncy, which reminds you that it's a pickup truck. The Ram is kind of in the middle between both the trucks. It is more car-like than the Silverado, but it's not as car car-like as the F-150, but it definitely has the most like planted feel out of the bunch because of that multi-link setup in the rear. And then when it comes to the Silverado, this definitely has the most old school feel out of the bunch when it comes to the driving experience. Like, you get into this and you really do feel like you are driving a pickup truck. And so I really think it's going to come down to what your personal preference is, and then also which one is going to fit best within your budget for what features you get. Because if you look at it from a feature perspective, the Ford F-150 definitely has the most features, but it's the most expensive. The Ram is the second most expensive, but has the least amount of features out of this particular bunch. And then the Silverado's in between, but it's the least expensive. So I guess the Silverado is kind of like the value play out of this particular comparison. But anyways, with that being said, I will see you guys. And then also, again, a huge shout out and thank you to the Larry Miller Dodge Ram here in Provo, the Chevy here in Provo, and then the Ford here in Provo for giving me some time with all three of these trucks. Check out the inventories in the description down below. I'll see ya.